The year was 1975. America was reeling from a series of events that had shaken its very core. The Watergate scandal had shaken the nation's faith in its government. The scandal, which led to the resignation of President Richard Nixon, had left the American public disillusioned and distrustful of their leaders. Now, the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, was under scrutiny. Allegations of misconduct and abuse of power had surfaced, and the agency was being called to account for its actions. They were summoned before Congress. The hearings were set to be a public spectacle, with the nation's eyes fixed on the proceedings. Their task to answer for decades of covert operations. These operations, shrouded in secrecy, had been conducted both at home and abroad, often without the knowledge or consent of the American people. The world waited with bated breath. The anticipation was palpable, as people wondered what dark secrets would be brought to light. What secrets would they reveal? The declassification of documents promised to expose the inner workings of the CIA, revealing the extent of their covert activities. Senator Frank Church, a steadfast champion of transparency, led the charge. He was determined to uncover the truth and hold those responsible accountable. He had assembled a committee to investigate the CIA's activities. Rumors of assassination attempts, domestic spying, and mind control experiments swirled. The committee's mandate was to get to the bottom of these allegations and restore the public's trust in their government, and mind control experiments swirled. The allegations were shocking, and the American people were eager to learn the truth. This wasn't just about the past, it was about the very soul of America. The hearings were a test of the nation's commitment to transparency, accountability, and the rule of law. The hearing room was packed. Journalists scribbled furiously, cameras flashed, and the weight of history pressed down on everyone present. The atmosphere was tense, as everyone knew that the stakes were high, and the weight of history pressed down on everyone present. The room was filled with a sense of anticipation as people waited to see what would be revealed. The CIA director, looking pale and uncomfortable, took his seat. The interrogation began. The questions were pointed and relentless as the committee sought to uncover the truth. Little did anyone know that the most shocking revelation was yet to come. The existence of a weapon so insidious, so morally reprehensible, that it would forever stain the reputation of the CIA, the heart attack gun. This weapon, designed to induce a heart attack in its target without leaving any trace, was a chilling reminder of the lengths to which the agency had gone in its pursuit of power. That it would forever stain the reputation of the CIA, the heart attack gun. The revelation of this weapon sent shockwaves through the nation, as people grappled with the implications of its existence. The hearings had exposed a dark chapter in American history, and the nation was left to reckon with the consequences. Imagine a gun that could kill without a trace. No gunshot, no bullet wound, just the appearance of a natural death, a heart attack. This was the chilling reality of the CIA's secret weapon. The gun itself was unremarkable in appearance. It resembled a modified Colt 1911 pistol, but its true nature lay in its deadly payload. Instead of bullets, it fired tiny darts, each laced with a potent toxin. These darts, almost invisible to the naked eye, could pierce clothing and leave the tiniest of marks. Once embedded in the victim's skin, the toxin would rapidly enter the bloodstream. Death, mimicking a heart attack, would follow swiftly and silently. The very existence of such a weapon sent chills down the spines of those who learned of it. It spoke to a level of ruthlessness, a willingness to operate in the shadows, that was deeply unsettling. The heart attack gun was a testament to the darkest impulses of the Cold War. The 1970s were a turbulent time for America. The Vietnam War raged on, dividing the nation. The Watergate scandal exposed a web of lies and corruption at the highest levels of government. Trust in institutions was crumbling. Against this backdrop of paranoia and suspicion, the CIA operated with alarming impunity. They engaged in domestic spying, infiltrating anti-war groups and civil rights organizations. They toppled governments, orchestrated coups, and assassinated foreign leaders. The American public, once confident in their government's commitment to freedom and democracy, were beginning to question everything. Were their phone calls being tapped? Were their letters being opened? Was the government they trusted turning against them? The revelations of the Church Committee hearings confirmed their worst fears. The CIA, it seemed, had become a law unto itself, operating in a shadowy world of secrets and lies. The heart attack gun was just the tip of a very dark iceberg. Section 4. Unveiling the Shadows. Senator Frank Church, a Democrat from Idaho, knew that the CIA held secrets. He was a man of conviction, determined to uncover the truth, no matter how deeply it was buried. His journey began with whispers and rumors, but it soon led him to a labyrinth of clandestine operations that spanned the globe. What he didn't know was how dark those secrets would be. The shadows he sought to unveil were not just political maneuvers or covert operations. They were actions that defied moral and ethical boundaries, actions that could shake the very foundation of democracy. The committee he chaired began to unravel a vast web of illegal activities. These were not isolated incidents, but part of a systematic abuse of power. The hearings were intense, filled with testimonies that revealed the extent of the CIA's overreach. Each session brought new revelations, each more shocking than the last. They uncovered evidence of assassination plots against foreign leaders like Fidel Castro and Patrice Lumumba. These were not just plans on paper, they were active operations that had been sanctioned at the highest levels. The implications were staggering, suggesting a willingness to interfere in the sovereignty of other nations. They found that the CIA had experimented with mind-control drugs on unsuspecting citizens. These experiments, often conducted without consent, aimed to manipulate and control human behavior. The ethical violations were profound, raising questions about the limits of scientific inquiry and the responsibilities of those in power. The scope of the agency's overreach was staggering. Then came the bombshell. The committee's investigation led them to a series of covert operations that were not just unethical, but potentially criminal. The revelations were a wake-up call, highlighting the need for greater oversight and accountability. During testimony about a break-in at a storage locker used by the CIA, a chilling discovery was revealed: a cache of shellfish toxin, also known as Saxitoxin. This was not just a chemical, it was a weapon, designed for silent and undetectable assassinations. The discovery sent shockwaves through the committee and the nation. This highly lethal poison, even in minute doses, could cause paralysis and death within minutes. The implications were clear. The CIA had developed a means to eliminate targets without leaving a trace, a tool that could be used to silence dissent or eliminate perceived threats. Saxitoxin was the perfect weapon for an undetectable assassination. It could be administered in various ways, from a simple injection to contamination of food or drink. The potential for abuse was enormous, raising fears about the extent of the CIA's covert operations. It could be administered in a number of ways, leaving no trace except for the victim's sudden and inexplicable death. The committee's findings were a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and the need for transparency and accountability in government operations. The heart attack gun had been found. This weapon, designed to induce a heart attack without leaving any evidence, was a chilling example of the lengths to which the CIA was willing to go. The discovery of such a device underscored the urgent need for reform and oversight, to ensure that such abuses of power could never happen again. Section 5. A matter of national security? The CIA, when confronted with the evidence, argued that the heart attack gun and the stockpiled Saxitoxin were necessary tools for a dangerous world. They emphasized that the Cold War was a time of unprecedented tension and uncertainty. The stakes were incredibly high, and the threat of nuclear war loomed over every decision. In such a volatile environment, they believed that having an arsenal of unconventional weapons was not just prudent, but essential for national security. They claimed that these weapons were never actually used against human targets. According to the CIA, the heart attack gun and the Saxitoxin were more about deterrence than actual deployment. They were meant to send a message to adversaries that the United States was prepared for any scenario, no matter how extreme. The mere existence of these tools, they argued, was enough to keep potential threats at bay. They argued that in the midst of the Cold War, with the threat of communism looming large, they needed to be prepared for any eventuality. The ideological battle between the United States and the Soviet Union was not just fought on the ground, but also in the minds of people around the world. Propaganda, espionage, and psychological warfare were all part of the arsenal. The CIA believed that unconventional weapons were just another tool in this complex and multifaceted conflict. The heart attack gun, they insisted, was a defensive weapon, a deterrent against Soviet aggression. They portrayed it as a necessary evil, a tool that could potentially save lives by preventing larger conflicts. The idea was that if the Soviets knew the US had such capabilities, they would think twice before making any aggressive moves. It was a high-stakes game of psychological chess, where the mere perception of power could alter the course of history. Senator Church, however, was unconvinced. He was a staunch critic of the CIA's methods and believed that such weapons represented a dangerous overreach of power. To him, the heart attack gun was not just a tool of war, but a symbol of a government that had lost its moral compass. He questioned the ethical implications of developing and stockpiling such weapons, arguing that they undermined the very principles the United States claimed to stand for. He saw the heart attack gun as a symbol of everything that had gone wrong with the CIA. It represented a shift from traditional intelligence gathering to more aggressive and covert operations. This shift, in his view, was not just a tactical change but a fundamental alteration of the agency's mission. Instead of being a force for good, the CIA was becoming a rogue entity, operating outside the bounds of law and morality. To him, it represented a dangerous shift in American foreign policy, a descent into the very tactics they condemned in their enemies. The United States had always prided itself on being a beacon of democracy and human rights. By developing and potentially using such weapons, Church argued, the country was betraying its own values. It was a slippery slope that could lead to a loss of international credibility and moral authority. If we are to remain a free people, Church declared, we must have faith in the integrity of our government. He believed that transparency and accountability were essential for maintaining public trust. Without these, the very foundation of democracy was at risk. Church called for greater oversight of intelligence agencies and stricter controls on the development and use of unconventional weapons. That faith has been shaken. The revelations about the heart attack gun and other covert operations had eroded public confidence in the government. People were beginning to question whether their leaders were acting in their best interests or pursuing their own agendas. The sense of betrayal was palpable, and it was clear that something needed to change. The heart attack gun, in his eyes, was a betrayal of that trust. It was a stark reminder of the lengths to which the government was willing to go in the name of national security. For Church and many others, it was a wake-up call, a moment of reckoning that demanded a reevaluation of the balance between security and liberty. The debate over the heart attack gun was not just about a single weapon, but about the soul of the nation and the principles it stood for.